But are the rules of human language the ultimate criterion by which we judge whether animal communication can be called language? Other investigators challenge this assumption. At Central Washington University, Roger and Debbie Fouts have been studying animal communication with some star pupils, chimpanzees who have been taught American Sign Language.
Well, the early research that started with cross-fostering, or humans raising chimpanzees as if they were children, focused on the early years. Kellogg and Kellogg raised a chimp by the name of Gua in their home for about 9 months, along with their son Donald. And then, of course, there's the Hayes' very famous research in the late 40s and 50s, where they raised a chimpanzee by the name of Vicky for 6 years, attempting to teach her vocal speech. Those were failures. And then the Gardner's Project, the one that this is a continuation of, Washoe was raised as if she were a deaf human child. And that was begun in 1966, and then in 1970 we took over Project Washoe from the Gardners and went with Washoe to the University of Oklahoma. And from that point on, we've been expanding it beyond the early developmental linguistic aspects and looking at really how these chimpanzees as adults and in a social group use their sign language and primarily among each other, as well as us as well. We still look at their conversations with humans, certainly in various research projects. But one of our primary interests and focus has been how do they use it amongst themselves.
Without any humans present, we videotaped the chimpanzees during the day for 20-minute segments for 15 consecutive days, and we found that they signed to each other, they signed to themselves, they signed about magazines. They rarely they never asked for food, and they very rarely discussed food. They would only discuss food occasionally, the way we would perhaps say, I think it's time for a little cheesecake. Actually, what happened, Tatu sat next to Washoe, and Washoe said it was time for blankets. And Tatu looked at her and signed, "Time berry." Perhaps it wasn't quite blanket time as far as Tatu was concerned. And I think the exciting thing for us was it opened up a whole new area for us with the remote videotape. We took the human element with data collection completely out for that period of time, and we looked at a whole lot of other interesting imaginary signing, private signing, various areas as part of as an offshoot of the remote video recording.
One of the interesting things that come out of Debbie's research for the remote video recording was the chimpanzee to chimpanzee use of sign language, and that they used it spontaneously among themselves and in meaningful situations, and for them, in meaningful situations for them. For example, there's one bit of video that you can see that has Washoe grooming Glueless, and he doesn't move correctly, and she demands, she calls him sort of a person sign or a hey you sign. She says, person, and then hug, and then hug, come hug, encouraging him to sit still and let her grooming. And so what's nice is you have the sign language being used interpenetrating in a very, very important chimpanzee to chimpanzee social interaction in grooming. And that's without human interference whatsoever. So these chimps, the sign language is definitely a part of their lives. They use it in a very, very natural sense, and in a sense that is useful for them in establishing and maintaining their relationships. If you look at where we've been headed with primate language in terms of we're by no means at the end of the curve. In fact, if you limited the study of a human communication system to just this very short past 30 years with just a handful of scientists, you would not begin to scratch the surface. I think we're in essence at the same place. I know here in our research, people are looking at conversation repair, how the chimpanzees repair the conversation. They're looking at semantic range, how they use that, and so on and so on. But what's really exciting to us, where we are beginning to move, is beyond the sign language in particular, in looking at dialect in communication, communicative gestures that are different dialects. What they've observed in the wild, McGrew and Tooten, for example, observed that the chimps at Gombe Stream, when they want to be groomed, they raise one arm. The chimps at Mahale Mountains, just 90 kilometers away, will use two hands to mean the same thing. One of the things that's coming out of the dialect, and what's coming out of Africa now that's very, very exciting, is that chimpanzees, not only do they have dialect and communication, but the tools they use apparently are culturally derived. Some chimpanzee communities have a hammer and anvil technology. Others use termite fishing for tools. The Badongo Forest chimps, Vernon Reynolds, has yet to observe any tool use whatsoever. So what we're finding is that they are much like our ancestors in some of the present small society, subsistence society peoples around the world today, and that they really are a people. They have a culture, and one of the aspects of the culture that we're interested in is the communication. And that's very, very exciting, I think, to find out that not only are we not unique with regard to language, but also culture is also the notion that culture is unique to our species is going the same way that language was thought to be unique and so on. In other words, it was never there. They were using absence of evidence and human arrogance to speculate about these things.
Whether animals possess language in human terms or simply a high order of communication is a question that remains open to interpretation and debate. Investigators do agree, however, that the animal mind is capable of a wide range of cognitive expression.